To help us gain insight into the lives of the ancient Pompeians, all 86 casts of human remains were meticulously scanned. This effort aimed to uncover not only how they died, but also how they lived over 2,000 years ago in southern Italy. Despite being a bustling metropolis, Pompeii's fate was sealed when the Mount Vesuvius volcano erupted, spewing hazardous gas and smoke into the air. The city and its thousands of inhabitants perished instantly, leaving behind a haunting, frozen-in-time ruin under a thick layer of ash. The discovery of a new room has left scientists stunned, and we invite you to join us as we explore this somber yet moving tale. Once a thriving provincial center with a population of up to 20,000 people, Pompeii's narrow streets were crowded with street vendors, businesses, and patrons. Its prosperity was largely thanks to the rich black earth of the surrounding area, which also benefited smaller villages like Atlantis and Terzinio. Despite the looming presence of the volcano, the residents were unaware of the impending disaster that would ultimately seal their fate. The innocence of the Pompeians proved to be a fatal mistake when the volcano, which had been dormant for 1,800 years, erupted. Had the Romans possessed a more geological understanding instead of relying on myths, the citizens might have noticed warning signs. However, much of the city was still being rebuilt after a significant earthquake that devastated a large part of it 17 years prior, and the town had experienced minor earthquakes in the weeks leading up to the eruption. Additionally, the town's wealth had declined sharply before the mountain finally exploded on August 24th, around 1 p.m. Despite the deadly ash and pumice stone shower that followed, more than 2,000 people stayed behind, while an estimated 80% of Pompeii's population fled for nearby communities. As dusk fell, the debris storm intensified, with flaming rocks raining down on the city and buildings collapsing. Panicked holdouts poured onto the rubble-filled streets from their hiding places in basements and other floors. Due to their discoveries, Pompeii's streets were well paved with high walkways and stepping stones to prevent slipping in the mud. Residents could relax by taking a public bath or watching gladiators fight and chariot races in the amphitheater or plays in 2 theaters. Studies of the aftermath shed light on Pompeii's class structure. Many eruption victims perished with vast amounts of money and jewelry, while others perished without any. The House of the Menander, one of the city's grandest residences, experienced the intensifying rain of ash and stones that night, blocking doors and windows on the ground level and pouring through atrium skylights. 10 individuals, most likely slaves, struggled to ascend to the second level with a single lamp in the pitch-black darkness. 3 more toiled with a pickaxe to excavate an escape path in a nearby hole that faced the courtyard. They all passed away, leaving behind only a few coins, glass beads, and their tools. The once thriving seaside metropolis was destroyed, and there is no doubt that the 7980 explosion is what catapulted the mountain to the fame or notoriety it enjoys today, even though the volcano had erupted numerous times before in history. Archaeologists recently discovered a hidden and forbidden room that sheds light on the living conditions of slaves before the city's destruction. The artifact was found on a property near Pompeii, and the room was a secret chamber containing 3 wooden beds, jars, pictures, and a chamber pot. Slaves were considered property in ancient Rome and were treated as such. The old villa known as Villa Giuliana has been discovered to contain a slave room, a ceremonial carriage, and skeletons of horses in the stables. Earlier this year, a wooden trunk with metal and fabric fragments that might have been part of the horse's harness was found on top of the slaves' mattresses, indicating that the slaves took care of the stables. The researchers were surprised by how small the room was, just 16 square meters, with large Roman jars in the corners that most likely served as storage. There was no indication of any decoration, and the only window that let in light was located high on the wall. This discovery offers a unique insight into the lives of slaves, as historical narratives were mostly written by affluent men and did not provide much information on how slave owners treated their charges. The recent discovery of a hidden room in the Chatsam near Pompeii sheds light on the lives of slaves before the destruction. The room, which was discovered by archaeologists, was a secret space containing 3 wooden beds, as well as other items such as jars, pictures, and a chamber pot. It housed slaves who were considered the property of others and were regarded as human beings according to Roman law. The old villa known as Villa Giuliana contains a discovered slave room, a ceremonial carriage, and the skeletons of horses. A wooden trunk with metal and fabric fragments that might have been a component of the horse's harness was placed on top of the slaves' mattresses, showing that the stables must have been taken care of by the slaves. Even though historical narratives were written by affluent men, this discovery offers a unique window into what it must have been like to be a slave. Those from lower social strata and slaves risked staying unknown in the big historical chronicles. More examination and exploration of the slave room, in the scholar's opinion, will aid in learning more about slavery under the Roman Empire. Even without the presence of significant treasures, it has become one of the most thrilling finds in some archaeologists' careers, as they believe the real treasure in this place is the human experience, particularly that of the most defenseless people in the old society, to which this room is a testimony. While public structures and lovely villas are the subjects of a lot of investigation, Ellis and his group was curious about how the underclass lived. Robert Ellis, who teaches classics at the University of Cincinnati and serves as co-director of the Porta Sabbia Pompeii Archaeological Research Project, uncovered a previously unexplored area of the city. They came across a straightforward community with homes and stores, explaining in horrific detail how many people perished on that block. Ellis stated that they were digging in a location where many Pompeians perished during the eruption, and he always had to remind himself that the fact that they can study this old Roman culture in such depth is due directly to a terrible human catastrophe. For so long, history was written by the affluent, but the slaves' chambers and impoverished areas provide insight into hitherto unseen lives. Hopefully, other finds will share the tale that is on the verge of extinction. Although Pompeiis Destruction may have occurred in the distant past, geologists are very certain that Mount Vesuvius is ready for another significant eruption. Fortunately, today's residents living close to the volcano will probably get warnings to live before the eruption. That concludes today's video. I hope you found it enjoyable. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your loved ones. What do you think about this recent discovery and the city of Pompeii? Tell us in the comments section below.